Well, just at the outset, just want to say I'm looking forward to the Cabinet meeting this morning. Relatively short agenda, but some important items on it. On it will be legislation to abolish hospital charges for adults, which will save public patients money, which will help in terms of reducing the cost of living, but also is an important part of the Sláinte Care programme, introducing universal health care and abolishing inpatient charges for adult patients is in addition to the abolition of charges for children, which was done last year, the reduction of the cost of medicines, for example, and also the expansion of GP visit cards. So a small but important step in terms of achieving universal health care according to the Sláinte Care programme. Also, Minister Humphreys today will announce 50 million in funding for communities that have accepted a lot of people from Ukraine and from other parts of the world. Very conscious that that is causing pressures in some communities around the country, and we want to recognise the welcome that they've received by providing funding for community projects and other infrastructure that will help give a benefit to everyone, both new residents and long-term residents as well.
And just I suppose in relation to Minister Donohoe, do you understand, you said last week the government is committed to transparency.
Yeah.
Can you understand opposition concerns and getting to the bottom of this?
Well, I think the only way we will get to the bottom of this in the end is through SIPO, through the Standards Commission. That's why it was established. That's why it's set up. And I believe that that's where this matter should be dealt with. The Dáil is a political chamber. We all know what we're going to see today in the Dáil. We're going to see the opposition try to damage Minister Donohoe. We're going to try to see him doing his best to explain the situation. But this isn't the place where these things should be resolved. We have ethics legislation, we have standards legislation, we have a standards commission, and that body, in my view, should be allowed to do his work. What it boils down to, in my view, though, is whether you believe Paschal Donohoe or not. I believe him. It's clear what happened here. A supporter of his offered to put up some posters and paid other people to do it. Minister Donohoe was unaware of that. His agents were unaware of that. As they became aware of it, they've done everything they can to be transparent and to correct the declarations. And that's what you'd expect people to do. And that's what's happened here. And I think it's important that there's proportionality around the response. We have rules in Ireland around how much you can spend in an election. That's important. We don't want to be like other countries where you need, hundreds of thousands, millions of euros just to be a candidate for election. We need a level playing field, and there's no question that Paschal broke the. There's no question about him having broken the spending limits or anything like that. It's just a question of some spending having gone unaccounted for, and it went unaccounted for because he was unaware that it occurred.
May I just ask one question on CAMS and your reflections on it? The interim report from the National Health Commission, we've heard further reviews will be taking place at HSE. Is it enough at this stage to say more reviews will take place as opposed to a overhaul of the system as has been called for? What do you want to see to be done in the short term?
Yeah, well, I'm very concerned about the report. I don't think anyone in politics or many parents or any GPs would be surprised to know that we've had problems in CAMS. They've been known for some time. But I was very bothered, very concerned to hear about children being lost to follow-up. Children being put on antipsychotic medications and not being seen again 3-6 months later, and that's not acceptable. That's not on. I know the HSE is dealing with that as we speak, making sure that all of those children are being contacted and are being seen again. Also, measures being taken to further increase recruitment, particularly the new consultants contract, which is very attractive. And also there's going to be new clinical leadership, putting in a clinical director and a new assistant national director as well. So action is being taken, but the review should also continue as well.
I'm sure you're aware of the sad passing of Matthew Healy, patient at Mercy Hospital. I suppose in response to that, I'm sure you're also aware that this is not an isolated incident, in that there are assaults like this that happen at hospitals, and have happened in recent months. I suppose in response to that, what do you think needs to be done? Will there be extra provisions put in place to ensure better safety for patients in light of this? And also there's going to be a committee meeting today discussing the future of rural pubs, and a lot of members of the Vintners Federations and so on are concerned about new licensing laws. I suppose what assurances can you give pub owners about, in light of the concerns that they might have?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose first of all, my condolences to the family. My heart really goes out to the family and the Catholic community as well, who I know are suffering terrible grief about what happened for a man to be assaulted and die in this way just weeks after he buried his own wife. It's really, really, really tragic. I suppose assault sadly can happen anywhere, but you still don't think they'll happen in a hospital, because hospitals should be a safe place and you go in there to get better, not for something like this to happen to you. So certainly we'll be talking to the Minister for Health about it and the HSE. I know some groups have called for a review of security in hospitals. We'll have to give that consideration as well. And really what we need here in particular is a full investigation by the Gardaí and also by the hospital to see, if anything could have been done to prevent this, and then to make sure that what can be done is done, so that we don't see a recurrence of a tragic incident like this.
Do you want to say something regarding the Prime Minister's call?
What I think, just finally on the rural pubs, just want to acknowledge that pubs, particularly in rural areas, are an important fabric of our community. The licensing laws which Minister Harris and Minister McEntee are proposing are designed to make pubs more viable and to make it easier for people to set up a new pub, for example, in a rural area, and also to improve nightlife, particularly in our cities. That's the objective. But of course we're going to listen to what the various interest groups have to say before we proceed with the legislation. I might just finally say, in relation to my call yesterday, had a very good phone call with Prime Minister Sunak yesterday. Lasted for about half an hour. Was the first time that we had a chance to speak in person. Was very warm. A good opportunity, I suppose, to establish a relationship. Spoke about the mutual desire that we have to put British-Irish relations back into a good place after all the disruption that's occurred in recent years as a consequence of Brexit. We both appreciate that the best way to achieve that is through an agreement on the protocol. Negotiations on that are confidential for obvious reasons. They're progressing slowly, but I do think that they're going in the right direction. And also an opportunity to raise with him our continued opposition to the proposals around legacy legislation, which I know all five parties in Northern Ireland are opposed to, or all five major parties in Northern Ireland are opposed to, and also in addition to that as well, to express our concerns about proposals to bring in an electronic notification system for people who are third country citizens crossing the border. So a good opportunity to talk about some of those things. I better run. Thank you.